Hi, and welcome back to another My Chat With by AussieTheatre.com. Today's guest is an extremely accomplished performer, best known for his role as Lola in Kinky Boots. The role saw him perform on the West End, Broadway, and in the Australian premiere production. Other theatrical credits include Miss Saigon and The Lion King, and now he's set to play Collins in the upcoming production of Rent at the Sydney Opera House. My name is Gabby, and this is My Chat with Callum Francis. Hello, Callum. I believe we are here to chat about Rent.
We are.
Are you mid-rehearsal at the moment?
Yeah, we were literally we're about to finish. We're about to finish the finale, finish the show blocking wise. So we were just blocking the finale, which is a bit of an uplifting moment, which is needed after a few days of dark patches in the show.
Yeah. And, is this exciting for you to be working on the show?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many tick lists on this, like bucket list ticks. The Opera House, this team are brilliant. But then I think mainly the fact that we are in a rehearsal room working in 2020, which sounds like an oxymoron, but it's not. It's amazing to be here. We're so grateful, especially as an Englishman with all my friends back home. Yeah, I'm glad that this is my home now. That's for sure.
And what's been the most exciting part about working on the show?
So this, for me personally, this show, I've been kind of a crazy musical theatre fan of Rent for about 10 years. It was one of the first shows that I learned about because I got into musicals quite late. And it's one of the first ones that I kind of was like, oh, this is such a great show. And I initially really fell in love with the role of Angel. So for me, I always pictured that. I always thought that that's the route that I would go down. So it's been really interesting to go down a different route because I think I was kind of influenced a little bit by my past role here in Australia of Kinky Boots that I didn't kind of warm towards Angel. I feel like I already did that with Lola.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been the most exciting part after having known the show for 10 years to then get in the room and do it. Also, I thought that I knew a lot of the lyrics and I didn't. So I've had to relearn those.
And what are you going to bring to Collins?
Well, it's been interesting because I'm not, and I didn't think this at the start either when the audition process was happening. I'm not a traditional Collins. I'm not necessarily a bassy kind of big oak tree of a human, which I've always thought Collins was. But whilst auditioning and researching the role, seeing different people play the role than the original guy, which I'd worshipped for 10 years, seeing different takes on it and different types of singers, tenors singing the role and all things like that. It's been quite, especially after 2020, which I won't dwell on. It's been really nice to do that, to research and to like kind of light my spark again and to find my own version of it. I'm a pretty laughable, light person. So that's what my Collins is. It's a lot more fun. It's not Angel, but it's not the big bassy the sound that people would know and love. It's different. I hope they love it.
There's no real rules for the roles in the show. It'll be, I think, really refreshing for diehard fans of the show to see a different interpretation of Collins.
Yeah.
If they're just expecting that kind of very bass heavy role.
Mm-hmm. It's very different. The people that these guys that I'm working with, it's a joy every day. They're amazing. And Sean Rennie, his vision of this show has been, I honestly think people are going to walk in, as soon as you walk into the space and you see the amazing set, it's so different. It's Rent, don't get me wrong, it's completely Rent through and through. But it's been so exciting to find, I don't even want to say a different version of it because it's not. It is still traditionally Rent. Die Hard fans will walk away and still love it. It might look a little different, our costumes and the way we look as people, but it's still Rent. It's still got that heart right deep down. It's still what it was.
And that goes really well into my next question, which is obviously the show is, over 20 years old now. Why do you think people are still so drawn to Rent as a piece of theatre?
So if we hadn't had the year that we'd had, I would say the music. People know the show. It's a classic. It kind of shot to fame when the amazing composer and writer of it all passed away on the first day of rehearsals and things like that. It's known for what it is. But what was really interesting and kind of brought it home to us here at the Opera House is the similarities of the year that we've had. The arts industry in 2020 has taken a beating like never before. Still here though, I will say that it's still here, but it's taken a beating. And in the show, the artists in the show are trying to just be heard. They're trying to scream and shout, and that it's falling on deaf ears. So it lined up perfectly. The HIV pandemic that nobody knew what it was, that ran rampant in New York at the time of the show, the coronavirus, the pandemic that we're living in here. It's so strange, and the both pandemics are completely different, and because of the times, one was a hell of a lot worse than the other. But it was amazing how they linked, and how the show and what Sean Rennie's created to fit that. It's kind of like we're telling the story of Rent, but there's an underlining kind of celebration of art and life and touch. Like we haven't been able to touch people
Yeah.
forever. So like in the room, the connection, like the physical connection between everyone throughout the piece is like so enjoyable because we're not 1.5 meters away from each other. We're telling this story about intimacy, and it's there and you see it, and it's wonderful. It's so nice.
Oh, I can imagine, especially, as you're saying, after this year where we've had no theatre and we've had no rehearsals and everyone's had to be distanced and spaced and stuff. It seems almost poetic that a show about unity and love is one of the first that we're getting back at such a major theatre.
Yeah, it is. I can't agree more. Like I didn't realize how much people needed Rent, and it's amazing like how things like this happen 25 years on, and it's still so relevant. I remember years and years ago I did Miss Saigon, and at the time there was a really huge shift in refugees, and in the UK it was such a poignant time to bring it back, and I find it so amazing. And a lot of people say, oh, we don't change lives, we're only in theater, we don't change lives, and it's not. It's the art imitating life. That's what's happening here, and it's Rent at the Opera House this year, and bringing it back, like you said, one of the first ones is absolutely that.
And I think you're right in saying, the message at its core of Rent, it's still so relevant. It was written in a different time, and there's no way Jonathan Larson would have known what was to come in 2020. But we still resonate so strongly with these characters and their journeys and their stories, and fighting for the arts and fighting for representation and for acceptance, especially after 2020. We've had a
Yep.
year with so much focus on all of these.
So much. Yeah, it is. And our cast, our lineup of amazing, beautiful humans, that it doesn't matter what shape, size, race, religion they are, standing in a line with these humans, these people are, it's joyful and pretty amazing. And it feels like you look around and it's like, oh, we're stepping in the right direction. The ensemble, I will say, for me, are the most amazing. Well, this is an ensemble piece, so it's just the non-named characters, I'll say, because they're not ensemble. The amount that they do and the amount that they've learned and nail is just, it's unreal. They are honestly the heroes of the show for sure. I mean, don't get me wrong, the seven named leads, are brilliant, but the ensemble are what, without them it wouldn't be right. They make the show completely. The story is beautiful, and I think a lot of people, when you explain it to someone, I have a personal trainer at the minute who's not musical theatre, and I tried to explain the story, and he was like, "Oh, like that's a bit dark," and I was like, "It is," but because of the darkness, the light of this story and the love behind it is just absolutely wonderful. It's a joy to do, and thank God it's there, because it is, the heavy parts are heavy. You don't want to be taking those home at night.
And I think all good theatre has that darkness and light. You can't just have 2 hours of fun and happiness and no conflict, because unfortunately that's not the way life is. There are ups and downs,
Yeah.
there are conflicts, and having that more human dark side of it makes it more relatable, and is the reason I think that the show is enduring for so many years.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. And it is, Rent is a classic, and it's for that. And there's so many parts that I'd forgotten about, which I'm hoping that people come and go, "Oh, I completely forgot about that. Yeah, I skipped that in the soundtrack," and I do whatever, because it's always the case. But it is the lightness of it is what saves it. It's a celebration of life. And after 2020, that is what we need. We need to remember that, yes, it was a terrible year, but the changes that we've gone through in 2020 had to happen. And I feel like Rent opening, what is it, the 27th, just before New Year, is the perfect way to celebrate what's happened and celebrate what we're going on to.
Do you have a favorite number or part of the show? It doesn't have to be when you're in, but something you've always kind of just been drawn to.
There's, I haven't always been drawn to it, but Henry Brett in the ensemble, his voice is like, for me, like it. And he has a moment in the show in Will I that is heartbreaking, that I can sit and watch and listen to forever. And I'm not actually in that part. So it's nice for me to sit back every night and just listen to his chords of steel kind of go for it. But I would probably say that's my favorite. Obviously, like the classics like La Vie Boheme is enjoyable to do, so much fun. Um, but I think the moments where you can hear a pin drop are my favorite in any shows. I like the loud ones because I'm loud as a human, but I think the pin drop moments for me, like Will I, is stunning.
And how have you, obviously, Collins, I'm not going to say too much to spoil the show for people who haven't seen it, but Collins goes on quite an intense emotional journey through the show.
Mm.
How have you, as an actor, kind of either made some distance between what he goes through and yourself, just to kind of preserve your own mental health, or
Mm.
things to
Yeah, it's
channel?
funny. I had this chat this morning with one of the ensemble, because we did something, and afterwards I like snapped out of it and was like, cool, because you can't take that home. You can't take that. You have to have a definite. We finished doing the scene, and obviously like yesterday was quite a full day of quite a dark section of the show, I would say. So it was weighing on all of us. We actually woke up this morning, all of us felt like we'd been hit by a bus. Like we were just like, oh. But yeah, I'm quite good at switching it off. I'm engaged to a wonderful human who everybody in theatre knows. Um, and I would hate that to ever have to go through what Collins went through with Ains. So that want to never feel like this is a very easy way to get into it. The want of never actually feeling like that is the one thing that gets me there, which is easily switched off when I go home and everything's fine. But it's with that, it's quite easy to channel into these things as an actor, and I speak for many. When you're telling someone's truth, people lived these lives. You have this responsibility as an actor to not make it musical theatre. I know that that's what we're doing, but you're telling someone's story, you're telling someone's truth. And I think if you go into a room and think that, to tell the truth, you get there, as hard as it may be. I'm not a crier in real life. I don't. People say something's wrong with me, but I just don't. But this, I've got to channel into a new little section of Callum that will bring Collins to life a little bit.
Oh, amazing. I guess my final question would be, if you were talking to someone who's never seen Rent, doesn't know anything about the show, if you would give like a 1-sentence summary, what would you say?
If you are down, or even if you are not, and you need to celebrate life, come and watch the show. Go through all the emotions with us, and we guarantee that you'll come out of it feeling refreshed, feeling recharged, and kind of ready for 2021.
Well, thank you so much for the chat, Callum.
Thanks for having me.
See you, Callum.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.